Alright, I'm back, and today we're going to do another rant of the week, and this one's going to be about scale again. I know I've bitched about scale at least twice already. Once being just the general scale issues that everybody has, and that's when I determined that there is no scale to go off of. So if you guys are scale nuts, it's just kind of, well, which scale are you going with? Are you going with G1 cartoon, G1 toys, anyway, G1 scale? Like the scale guides, it's insane. There's too many different scale issues with that. And then I also had the combiner scale rant, where in the end, my biggest one was the fact that Devastator can combine inside of Astro Train. Astro Train fits in the palm of Omega Supreme's hand, and yet Devastator is almost the size of Omega Supreme. It doesn't make sense when you think of it in terms like that. But, I've bitched about that stuff already. So, today, what I'm actually going to be bitching about, because that's what I do. Welcome to my channel. If you haven't seen a rant of the week, this is what I do. I bitch about things, and I'm just transforming. Okay. So, my really big problem with scale, I mean, it's like I could, some scale bugs me, some scale doesn't. But there's so many different figures out there. You can pretty much make anything work for however you like. But here's my issue with scale. And Hasbro gets a pass on this one for the most part, because I can understand where they have to come from on this one. And that's their own toys scaling with one another. The classic Seekers, they're smaller than the classic cars. Why? Because they have a certain amount of plastic that they're allowed to use in the mold. Because they have to fit into a certain price point. They can't just be like, oh, well, we'll just make a little bit more plastic on this figure and call it good. No, it has to fit in a price point. They're a corporate entity. They have to follow certain guidelines. They can't just not do something and just assume it's okay. Third party, on the other hand, they make figures in whatever size they want to make, so there's no excuse for them. Does it suck that Hasbro has to follow these guidelines? Yes, because I would love to have a small Voyager to large deluxe Seeker. That would fit so well with any of the classic lines, better than the actual classic Seekers, who look good, but they're small because they have so much plastic in the wings and the missile launchers. And the cars, on the other hand, because of the fact that they're just a car, they're bigger because they don't have so much plastic invested in the wings and stuff like that. So, and they're allowed a certain number of deluxes in a year and a certain number of Voyagers in a year. Let's talk about the classics line. It's pretty evident that they were allowed 3 molds for the original classics line that were Voyagers. Optimus, Megatron, and Jetfire. So it's like, oh yeah, we want to do a Starscream, but we don't have any more Voyagers molds. Are we going to take Megatron, Optimus, or Jetfire out of the Voyager scale and make them deluxe so that we can make it a Voyager Seeker? And not to mention, if we make the deluxe Seeker, we could probably get more repaints out of that one because we're allowed to put out more repaints and retools of the deluxe molds than we are of the Voyager molds. So, anyway. But my big problem is the third party guys, because they're not doing things in their own scale, and that's really starting to bug me. Because you invest so much money in figures. Sometimes you do, sometimes it's not that much. And then you get these figures that just don't scale with the other figures in their own damn line. Good example, the iGear Minibots. I only have the original sets right now. But it's like, okay, he's awesome. I love this figure. But then their next wave of Legends figures that are supposed to be in their Legends line were closer to deluxe size. And it's like, well, I think the second wave was closer to Scout, and then closer to deluxe after that. It's like, okay, then what do I do with this little guy? Because he doesn't fit in your line anymore. And there's no excuse for it. They should have either thought it through and either made these guys the same size as the other ones, or made the other ones the same size as these ones. It bugs me. You know, some people, you know, question why certain scales bugs me and others don't. And that's one of the biggest reasons. It's like, why? You know, I understand that. Oh, maybe the fans want the bigger Legends figures. Okay, great. Then give them the bigger Legends figures. Don't do it half-assed and do a couple of them small and then the rest of them big. It confuses me. Fans Project Bruticus. I know, you know, most of that was a Hasbro figures, so they're only working with what they have, but they could have made new figures for the other three components of that to make it so that he is in better scale with their Minosaur and the Make Toys Giant. Then Make Toys Giant isn't as tall as the Make Toys Computron, when her Devastator should be bigger than Computron. You know, things like that. It's just like, wait, what? Let's see, who else? What else? Toy World. Here's a great example. Okay, so they throw out a couple Headmasters. You know, and they scale relatively well with each other. And then they throw out Skullcruncher, who's a lot bigger than the other two. And it's like, wait, what? You know, Skullcruncher looks like he fits better in a Masterpiece scale, and the other two look larger classics. It's kind of like, okay. Then they throw out Hegemon, their Megatron. Somebody was commenting on one of my videos a while ago, and this is the main reason why I'm making this video, is because of the Hegemon comment that he posted. But the Hegemon is better scaled with the Classics Optimus. Even though he's a little bit bigger than the Classics Optimus, he scales better with that. And it's like, okay, that's awesome, that's cool. And then they make Orion, who's not a G1 inspired Optimus Prime. He's a IDW inspired Optimus Prime. And it's like, okay, that's cool. But he's too big for Hegemon. He's like almost a head taller than Hegemon. And it's like, wait, why would you make your Optimus bigger than your Megatron? I can understand a Megatron being a little bit bigger than Optimus, but never Optimus bigger than Megatron. Ever. Especially that much of a discrepancy. I mean, if you actually get the two figures and you put them next to each other, you just sit there and go, and it just, things like that really bug me. It's like, you have no size restrictions. The third parties have no size restrictions. So why do they not stick to their own scale that they're building? You know, a lot of them are jumping ship of the classics and going into MP. And it's like, okay, that sucks for us classics collectors. You know, but it is what it is, and you know, somebody else will start making classics, and Hasbro's still making classics, so you know, we'll go with the flow, I guess. But a lot of these companies aren't designed for MP, so they're quickly gonna start going under, I think, or coming back to the classics and be like, sorry. But here's another great example of what I'm talking about, is Unique Toys Predicate. I love that toy. The figures were, you know, you had that one large Voyager, and then the rest were deluxe scale, and then transform, and he's about the size of any of the other Predikings. You know, he was pretty awesome. But now Unique Toys is doing the Terracons, and each individual figure is almost twice the size. And it's like, wait. So your combiners aren't going to scale with one another. I was hoping that they'd stick to that formula of their Predaking. I think that would have been great. I would have loved that. I think a lot of people would have loved that. But they didn't. They're going with the larger scale. I'm not complaining that they did. I'm complaining that the first set wasn't the same size as the new set. It's like, come on, guys. Scale them together. You can't just release random figures in random scale and expect all the fans to be like, okay, yeah, we'll buy whatever you put out. I mean, even MMC's doing that now. They did the Predaking, which was really awesome, and now they're doing an MP scale Defensor, which, whatever, because we need 4 Defensors out at the same time. That's brilliant, guys. Brilliant. I mean, there are so many other figures you could work with. Why the hell would you go with Defensor when there's so much Defensor out there right now? There's already been two third-party Devastators and one Hasbro Devastator on the way, but even that would have been a better choice because the first 2 Devastators, they're not aging as well as other combiners. So if you decided to do a MP Devastator, a true MP Devastator, I think that would blow, people out, blow it all out of the water. Or how about the Seacons? I mean, I know they weren't in the G1 cartoon, but nobody's touched them yet. Terracons, only one company's been working on those. Aerial Bots, only one company touched those, with the exception of Hasbro. I would love to see MP Aerial Bots. There's other options other than Defensor. I think this year is a very Defensor heavy year, and to have this announcement that MMC's doing a Masterpiece Defensor, when the Hasbro one came out this year, the TFC one was completed this year, and the Make Toys ones, they're saying will be out this year, which means they'll be out next year. So, depending on how quickly MMC actually puts something out, we might be seeing that Defensor next year or 2. But it's just, there's other things that they could be working on with that if they want to do that scale. That's not that. I saw because their Predaking was originally, from what I read on one of their interviews anyway, was originally supposed to look more like the Unique Toys Predaking. So I wouldn't mind seeing them revisit the Predaking already. MMC's like, okay, we did the classic scale one, now we're going to do an MP scale Predaking. And, blow everybody out of the water again. But, whatever. Anyway. Back to the scale issues. TFC's a great one. Okay, so they make this awesome Devastator. It's like, oh, yeah, cool. And then they make these aerial bots that are a lot bigger than the Devastator, and everyone's like, huh. Well, I guess jets are bigger than construction vehicles, which, works for those guys that like the alt mode scale. But not so much for the guys that like the combiner scale, where Superion should be smaller than Devastator. And I'm in that boat there. And then they do. Let's see, who did they do after Superion? Was it? I think it was Predaking, who was bigger than Devastator but shorter than Superion. And then they're doing Then they did their Protectobots, which was bigger than Devastator but shorter than Predaking, I believe. And it's just kind of like head scratching. Like, wait. Devastator should be bigger than most of the other Scramble City. Predaking should be taller than Devastator. Now, that's up to the individual company's interpretation. That's my opinion. I think all the combiners should be about the same size, with Devastator a little bit bigger and Predaking a little bit bigger than that. Now, I'm okay with if the Devastator is a little bit bigger than Predaking because of the fact that, Devastator is 6 different characters, and Predaking's only 5. I could forgive that one. But Superion just being bigger because of the fact that he's jets, so it's like they've got their own combiner scale, but they're not following their own combiner scale. And it's like, what? So when Warbitron comes out with their next figure, once it's done, if this doesn't fit into the scale of the Bruticus, that's going to piss me off so bad. It's just, why can't you guys make your figures in the same scale? There's the scale issues like I was just talking about, like, oh, this guy should be bigger than this guy, and this guy should be bigger than this guy. That's my opinion of where those guys should be. But when you're doing your own scale and you're not following your own scale, that's a problem. Orion being taller than Hegemon, that's a problem. Unless you're planning on making another Megatron, which they said they were, but we've yet to see anything like that because they're busy doing Throttlebots and Headmasters and whatever. iGear pretty much went under, from what I understand now. Or they're on hiatus, which, same thing. So they're AWOL. So we'll never see the rest of their mini-bots, and which, isn't necessarily a bad thing. And just, there's some companies that understand the toy scale. They get it. You got, Bullsfire. I don't want to sit here and brag about Bullsfire, but the fact that they work their scale around the existing MP Grimlock, awesome. Great for you guys. You guys really did do a good job on that. Yeah, you're not going to make it as a company because you're up against everybody else. I personally would love to get more of your figures, even though your swoop broke on me right away. I did get another one, though, from a friend traded it to me. So, anyway, I do have a new swoop. Anyway, so, that's good of a company to do. You got, what was it? Fans Toys, who's doing their MP Dinobots that are a lot bigger than the MP Grimlock. But the first Dinobot came with the feet plate for Grimlock to make him look a little bit bigger. Yeah, it's stupid, but at the same time it does its job pretty well. And puts them closer to their scale for the time being until they can release their own version. Here's a good example of companies doing things right. Although the Optimus version was a QC nightmare. This is the iGear PPO-1B, the Nemesis Prime version of their downsized Optimus MPO-1 mold. They saw that MP Optimus was too big, and so they downsized it. Yeah, it's a cheap knockoff because, they knocked it off. But the Nemesis one also, you can see the legs and stuff are a little loose. But actually, they're not that bad. This guy actually is really spot on QC. But the fact that they put this guy out so that he's better for or more like a classic scale, as opposed to MP scale, or you could even say he's almost MP10 level, not engineering but size. He's a little shorter than an MP10, but I believe I don't have an MP10 anymore, so. But yeah, it's like they see that need for a figure to fit better into the toy scale, and they do it. But then there's other companies that are just like, we don't care. I'd say the only one that Hasbro doesn't get a pass on is their hard shell from Prime. It's like, are you kidding me? This is our hard shell? This, when everything else is Voyager class and bigger and stuff, this is our Insecticons, the big badass that are supposed to be as bigger than Megatron? No. You get 18,000 bumblebees, but we can't get one big hard shell. Not even Dakara decided to try to tackle that one. They just gave up. Anyway, so yeah, that's my rant of the week. So what's your guys' thoughts on it? Do you think these companies should really stick to their own scale that they've made? Or do you guys just like having their figures get put out any way possible? Fitting into all sorts of different scales. You guys know where I stand, so where do you guys stand?